Uganda, a land home to a spectrum of exotic, grand, and sometimes deadly wildlife. The country is home to the African elephant and lion, the giraffe, the common hippopotamus, and the Cape buffalo. Over the past few decades, these animals have been rebuilding their numbers after, in some cases, they had been poached to extinction in the 1980s. For a long time now, Uganda has been a place where these animals have thrived and continued to capture the hearts of tourists from all regions of the globe. But now that sanctuary is starting to break down. New enemies have risen for the wildlife here, and nowadays the weapons are bigger, more powerful, and a lot easier to get. Where does this problem begin? Does it start with the death of an animal? Or is it a lot deeper than that? Who is responsible for what is starting to happen again? And how can we stop them from repeating history? How can we prevent an animal war? In this case, poaching is the act of illegally hunting down game on protected land. It is usually the result of economic stress and foreign involvement. First, let's take a look at what the wildlife is up against. Poachers come in 3 different categories, but they might all be the same person. Sustenance poachers simply want food. They kill animals because there's no easier way for them to get meat.
Basically, people in the communities around the park, they mainly come for meat, basically for meat. Because some communities have got a belief that without wild meat, some of them cannot survive. So that's why they come in to hunt, and then on a less extent, they sell it for some small money.
A profit poacher wants to sell the animal for money, and may sell it to someone in the village or whoever asks. The third poacher is the trade poacher. Trade poachers generally have wealthy backers providing them with bigger guns so that they can attack elephants and rhinos. The reasons for this type of poaching are the illegal rhino horn and ivory trades.
Over the past few years, wildlife trafficking has become more organized, more lucrative, more widespread, and more dangerous than ever before. As the middle class grows, which we all welcome and support, in many nations, items like ivory or rhinoceros horn become symbols of wealth and social status, and so the demand for these goods rises. By some estimates, the black market in wildlife is rivaled in size only by trade in illegal arms and drugs. Today, ivory sells for nearly $1,000 per pound. Rhino horns are literally worth their weight in gold, $30,000 per pound.
For a Ugandan, a sum as large as $30,000 is life-changing. And when you consider the jobs they currently have, it's even more so.
The local people are mainly farmers. They grow rice, they grow maize, some bananas, but few individuals, they are still coming into the park.
For a farmer in a vicious cycle, where there does not seem to be any end to the hard labor, poaching becomes a very appealing idea. It promises wealth, comfort, and luxury. However, in the long run, these promises are false, as they are capable of tearing apart some of Uganda's biggest incomes. Despite the horrible implications for elephants and rhinos, all sorts of animals are affected by poaching. Whether it be a civet cat covered in flies, or a giraffe struggling to walk after its foot was injured by a poacher, this looming threat manifests itself in many ways. The Uganda Wildlife Foundation, however, does not think that poaching is such a big issue.
It's not a big problem, but as we are on the border with Congo, and this is where we are now, it's the border with Congo and Uganda, there are some people from Congo that practice armed poaching, whereas in Ugandan side, some few Ugandans, very few Ugandans are still coming in for wild meat.
Although there is general agreement over the fact that poaching is not a huge issue in Uganda right now, there are still NGOs like the Uganda Conservation Foundation that are fighting for it to stay that way.
Okay, so we've all been on safaris, trips down to the Delta in Murchison. We stayed in Chobe and Prague. And the reality is that the Ugandan Wildlife Authority try and stop poaching. They try and work with the communities to make sure the communities get a revenue coming into them, a benefit, a value from the park. But in the Delta, where you often see the lions and you will often see the elephants, maybe even the giraffe too, we have lots of snares down there. And it's coming from people crossing the Nile, pretending to be fishermen and placing snares all the way around those areas. So there are many of you probably who have seen an injured animal down there, or an animal that's actually been supported by the veterinary department and is now recovering. But the Ugandan Wildlife Authority rangers are patrolling all over that park. They are collecting snares all the time and making sure that they're destroyed immediately.
Some hunters, like sustenance ones, don't care what they catch as long as it's something. So they set out these indiscriminate snares that will trap any animal, big or small. In order to trap animals, holes have been dug, stakes sharpened, metal bear traps purchased, and rope bought. The damage done by snares is scarring and life-threatening. They can kill animals by infection or because a limb has been ripped off by the snare. But poaching doesn't just affect the animals. It also affects the people that come in contact with it.
Local populations that depend on wildlife, either for tourism or sustenance, are finding it harder and harder to maintain their livelihoods. Diseases are spreading to new corners of the globe through wildlife that is not properly inspected at border crossings. Park rangers are being killed. And we have good reason to believe that rebel militias are players in a worldwide ivory market worth millions and millions of dollars a year.
The director of the Uganda Tourism Board recently stated that $800 million were made from tourism in 2011 alone. Tourism is becoming a major source of income for the country, and poaching can have a serious effect on the number of tourists willing to come to Uganda. If poaching doesn't stop escalating, the economic position the country is currently in will worsen, and poverty will increase. This means that in the long run, the poachers are just hurting themselves, their families, and their neighbors by committing the crime. But hope is far from lost. In fact, the issue of poaching in Uganda is not that big yet. It's just getting bigger. Hard work and effort go a long way towards stopping it, but that energy must be used the right way. It's important to remember that protecting the animals, though useful of course, will not get rid of the problem. Realizing that the happiness of the people who live near the national parks is directly linked to whether or not tragedy will occur is vital. One place that is doing a good job of protecting their wildlife is the Jua Rhino Sanctuary, where rangers take a bit of a different approach than the Uganda Wildlife Authority.
So how is your program different from UWA? How do you handle poaching?
Our is so different because poaching in UWA there is only operations which they do. Like if they are going to, they only do what they call extended patrols.
Patrols.
They don't monitor the animals, and that's it. And they only go there and camp in the bush and come back. Ours is different. For us, we are patrolling the whole fence.
Yeah.
Day and night, we have people patrolling. We have people who are doing the patrol on foot. And we have motorbike foot patrol as well.
Motorbike foot patrols?
Yes, we go for night anti-poaching. We have a team.
Yeah.
It's called anti-poaching.
Anti-poaching team.
Which is well trained, and they go whenever we get information of poaching.
The Uganda Conservation Foundation has other ways of helping to solve the issue, directed more at the root of the problem. The UCF sponsors trench building to keep elephants off crops and helps to promote the park in the local community.
We hope, through the Uganda Conservation Foundation, through building the Pakuba Marine Station, for instance, that we can cut off the ability for the local people to come in and poach. But at the same time, we're trying to make sure that we have a community conservation program that can support the community in harvesting their crops, making sure that they are part of producing food that the lodges can use, and also to get employment through the park.
And all the way in the United States, Hillary Clinton makes a statement about what possible solutions there are to this issue.
Now, several conservation groups are here with us today, and we greatly appreciate their invaluable work. But the truth is, they cannot solve this problem alone. None of us can. This is a global challenge that spans continents and crosses oceans, and we need to address it with partnerships that are as robust and far-reaching as the criminal networks we seek to dismantle. Therefore, we need governments, civil society, businesses, scientists, and activists to come together to educate people about the harms of wildlife trafficking. We need law enforcement personnel to prevent poachers from preying on wildlife. We need trade experts to track the movement of goods and help enforce existing trade laws. We need finance experts to study and help undermine the black markets that deal in wildlife. And most importantly, perhaps, we need to reach individuals, to convince them to make the right choices about the goods they purchase.
There's a lot going on, and next time you're in Murchison, by all means have a good look at the wildlife and the scenery, but remember the communities live around those animals every day, and they might be losing their crops. And the Ugandan Wildlife Authority is not only protecting the animals, but working with the community every single day. Enjoy Murchison.